Hello students, I welcome you all to my Swayam course titled Comics and Graphic Novels in Indian Context. Now we have moved to the last lecture of week 2, which is titled as Contemporary Scene, Comics Culture in India, Comics Con, Comics Convention, Comic Fest, Comics Conclave, and many other such kind of events that are happening to evolve to take it forward the growth of comics in India. So this entire week, that is what we were doing, was completely focused on the emergence of Indian comics and how different kinds of publication houses catered to different kinds of audiences and what was the psychology behind creating certain characters, what did these characters do, in what way did they try to help improve the mindset of the children, or what was the source of entertainment, what was their source of entertainment, right from mythology to history to the everyday life of middle class society to even the Indrajal comics that were just trying to copy the western superheroes. So there was a diverse range that we have traced in this week. There's a diverse range, there's an evolution, the ups and downs. There are also different directions that we go on to trace in this week, and as a result of it, now in this very last lecture we are going to see what has all this led to. What is the result of such comics, of these comics that were produced in India? But before beginning, my lecture, I would like to say that, the comics culture in India is yet to make its impact in the similar way as it has made in the West. Because in the West, the Batman and Superman still continue to be experimented and transformed into diverse media through films which have become super hit, which have different kind of adaptations, which have now been translated into diversity of Western languages as well, Western regional languages, so that they can be seen by, because there is a demand for those superheroes, because people want to see, and somebody who does not know Batman and Superman, they are rendered to be as somebody oblivious, whether they how negligent they can be about such superheroes which have made their name everywhere. So in the similar way, I would say that Indian comic has still a long way to go. Indian comics still needs to re-experiment itself. Indian comics still has to find that kind of ground which exists for the Western comics, and as a result of it, so many events. For example, IIT Gandhinagar is organizing a comics conclave every year, where all the graphic novelists and the comic artists come together and they delve and deliberate on the future of comics in India. And there are so many other such events, for example, that we will come across while during this lecture. So the contemporary scene for comics. Indian comics are now finding newer platforms to connect with audience today and continue with their fan base. Experiments with the same storyline on digital and social media are trying to engage with children in novel ways. For example, comics like Chacha Chaudhary and Motu Patlu by Diamond Comics have now become favorites among Indian kids. So, in fact, most of the Indian middle class household will also be very familiar with the characters of Motu and Patlu, which did not come earlier in the comic book form, but it is a television series. And most of the students, it has become such a hit that, most of the children of young age, the school going students, they want to have stationery boxes of Motu Patlu. They want to have tiffin boxes, they want to have bottles. So in this way, merchandising, and in this way, Motu Patlu, the Diamond Comics, is trying to expand its base by trying to provide stationery, t-shirts, by trying to create a culture of their own comic book characters, so that and Diamond Comics characters are vastly popular and equally liked, because they are very clean in the Indians sense of the term, that they do not use any wrong language, they do not use any immoral stories, they do not show any such kind of sexual content that should be prohibited for children to see. So they are very clean, and they know who are their audience, that Indian middle class children are going to be the audience. So in a way, the publishers also know the mindset of the parents, that what kind of parents these children are going to have if they are going to permit their children to see such cartoons. Now, taking clue from Diamond Comics and other such comics which are re-experimenting, which are kind of revising their storylines for different platforms, for different media genres, Amar Chitrakatha has also come up with a digital app of its own, and they are also collaborating with various media phone houses, various agencies, technological agencies, where people can read Amar Chitrakatha comics anywhere, so they don't have to buy the print format, the book format. But in order to keep themselves alive, they know that digital is going to be they have to experiment, they have to come on the digital platform, because digital is easily accessible. Almost everybody has phones in their hands now, and if they want to have access, if they want to broaden their market, if they want to expand the market for their Amar Chitrakatha series, they will have to take recourse to the digital platforms as well. So ACK is now collaborating with diverse mobile services providers to offer their comic books to a wide readership. For instance, Vodafone enables its subscribers to read Amar Chitrakatha comics, listen to popular stories, and download ringtones and wallpapers. So this is another kind of comics culture which is emerging. So you have wallpapers, you have ringtones, you have voiceovers. I mean, if somebody calling you, you can actually put the Ramayana song which is there in the Amar Chitrakatha series, or you can put wallpaper from the Amar Chitrakatha, visual from the comic books, so all these kind of culture that you can actually use in your technology is also promoting the comics industry as well. And download ringtones and wallpapers of their favorite characters on their cell phone. So there can be a dialogue from some character which can be used as a caller tune. Nagaraj Comics is working on the animated shows with an attempt to revive its superheroes. So we see all the comic book publishing houses know that they will, in order to survive in today's world, just as I said in the beginning, Superman and Batman are surviving today because they are experimenting with their genres. They have not just restricted themselves. So the politics that comes, the politics that arises, the urge to see their superheroes, or to see those characters which you are reading in the book, to see live on screen, to be able to know who is Superman, or maybe in Indian context, who is Nagaraj, who is Dhruva. Children want to see them live. So in order to expand their popularity, it is the need of the hour that they should be experimented and not just retained to the comic book alone, where they have been, where they were launched earlier. So Nagaraj Comics is working on animated shows and with an attempt to revive its superheroes. So animation becomes another mode how anime, because most of the graphic novels and comics in Japan have now been transported, or they have switched to the anime genre, which has been a huge hit there. The revival of these comics is also being done so as to capitalize on nostalgia of the grown-up people who can only think of their childhood through comics reading. This is particularly important in case of Indian diaspora who believe Indian comics can help them impart their children some Indian values. So, what is the need? There can be a question that, the people already know the stories, children already know the story, or adults alike who are interested in reading these comic books, they already know the story. So, what is the difference? Why will somebody go and watch the same story by paying tickets online? Why would somebody go and watch it in a theater when they already know the story? The very fact that they will go and watch the story in the theater is that because they want to relive their childhood days. They want to relive, they want to see that icon, they want to relive the nostalgia, those gone years, the past years that they cannot bring back by watching these comic book heroes in theater. So this urge to bring back the past, to be able to relive your childhood days, gives the space for these comic book heroes to earn more, to be able to strike more, they can be more closer in a way when they are visualized on screen, on television, or through the film. Additionally, events like Comic-Con Fest, merchandise and video games have also helped in keeping these cartoon characters alive in memory. So there is an entire industry which is going on parallelly, and when you go and buy children's products anywhere, right from their soaps to their shampoos to their school bags to anything, to their school books or whatever they are into, their watches, anything, these cartoon characters are highly in demand, because it depends what cartoon character is a child interested in, and they will buy a particular watch of that particular superhero or Chacha Chaudhary or Nagraj in which they are interested in. So this actually increases the sales of these comics books as well, because it is the likeness, it is the fondness for their heroes, for these characters which are there in the comic books, that actually helps in enhancing the value of their comics as well. So there are also simultaneously there are also so many fests, comics fests, which are being organized in India. Though comic fest, I would say, are very elite, not any middle class person or person belonging to a working class background, or maybe a lower middle class person would have access, because they have very expensive tickets if you wish to go and attend any of the comic fests in India, they'll have very expensive tickets to buy, and not everybody will be willing, or not everybody can afford to go, unless and until you are a fanatic, or unless and until you are somebody who is deeply engrossed in the comics culture and who actually lives comics and very much a part of comics. So somebody will only be interested in going and attending to Comic Fest only if they have a very decent enough background and also an intense interest in the comics produced within India. So the country is experiencing a resurgence in sequential art, with comics festivals providing democratic, artist-first outlets and daring new voices emerging from India's comic community. Comic festivals are also an opportunity to engage with new and emerging artists dwelling diverse issues that helps expand the comics readership merely from kids. So comic fests are not only venue for the established artists and illustrators and writers and creators or people who are engaged with the comics industry in any way, but they also are very important as they give opportunity to the youngsters, to the new creators, artists and illustrators to experiment and exhibit their art, which would not otherwise find a platform. The majority of comic book artists are recent grads or college students with little resources, money for self-publishing or purchasing pricey exhibit booths at bigger comic book conventions. However, their stalls at such comics fests help them gain recognition as well as a dignified platform to showcase their work among the established ones. So this gives an opportunity for the young artists and illustrators to exhibit their work with the people who have huge recognition, with the people who have earned huge fame in the comic book sector, and to be placed on the same plane, to be placed on the same stage as the experienced, mature people who belong to the comics industry. So it is very much a welcome change. It is very much a welcome platform for such newbies who want to try their luck in the comic industry, because it also helps them an avenue to meet people which they would not be able to do on a day-to-day basis otherwise. Award-winning competitions and decent prize money are also offered in such comic fests, where artists from all over India network, comment, reflect and gain feedback through which they can improve their work. Comics and other similar popular art forms are the focus of this event, which aims to raise awareness and appreciation for them. So Comic-Con is another fest-like event that happens in India, and actually it happens in most of the metropolitan cities like Bangalore, Delhi or Mumbai, big cities where they know that they can pull up a huge crowd, and there is lot of celebrity visits also, which actually tend to make such kind of events successful, also popular, and also be exhibited in media, be displayed in media, because because a certain so and so called celebrity visited Comic Con. And when we are talking about Comic Con or any such fest like events that are happening across India in order to popularize comics, so we should always keep in mind it is not just the comic book form alone which is being marketed or exhibited in such events, but illustrations, visuals or art designs of any sort. It can be a scroll, a patua art that we discussed in the first week. It can be in the form of, patua painters, patua illustrators are also there. Other sorts of tribal paintings, tribal artworks, tribal artists are also there to exhibit their work, which are unknown and which could not make their place in the famous comic book industry. So all kinds of indigenous artworks, upcoming, experimental, montage like structure, so many kinds. It's not just, any poster could also be exhibited there. It is a very welcoming platform where, artists of all sorts come and, talk with each other and tend to discuss the possibility of their art and designs, where they could be marketed, where they can be of use, where they can find work, where they will be popularized. Since its debut in 2011, Comic Con Delhi has drawn thousands of people annually, making it a hub of comic fan lovers. The cosplay competition organized in Comic Con is the best feature of the event with an award of rupees 3 lakhs. Can you imagine a comic event giving an award of 3 lakhs? Why? Because, and 3 lakh money is given. What is cosplay? Cosplay is the somebody when you are dressed, is given to the best dressed participant, is given to the best dressed candidate who's dressed in any form of comic character. You can be dressed as Chacha Chaudhary, you can be dressed as Batman, you can be dressed as Spider-Man, you can be dressed as Pinky, you can be dressed as Nagraj. So the best person, the best dressed person who is able to bring the essence of the characters is given this award prize of 3 lakh rupees. As per this competition, the award is given to a person who is best dressed in the comic cartoon avatar. The event also includes celebrity showstoppers. So it's a very huge and high level event where even you have showstoppers, celebrity showstoppers. In one such event held in Mumbai, Game of Thrones actors made their appearances. Merchandise stalls, gaming zone, concert arena are some of the activity points in such events. So it's full of entertainment. You are not just going there to read comic books, buy comic books, or comic books are marketed or illustrations, but so there are gaming zones also. So there are games based on Spider-Man and Batman. There are games based on the monsters and Nagraj. So all these kind of games are also evolving through such comic fests. And there is concert arena and the merchandise stalls. You can also buy products of any sort, perfumes, you can buy t-shirts, you can buy stationery items, you can buy shoes, whatever you feel like can also be brought through. Belonging to a particular comic character can also be brought from such merchandise stalls. Mainly organized in the metropolitan cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, these events rely on the basic assumption that the crowd in such cities is heterogeneous and constitutes of upper and middle classes, people from elite and non-elite backgrounds. Why are these fests or why are these events only kept in the metropolitan cities? Because of their wider reach, because even these metropolitan cities tend to have people from small towns also. So even if you are situated in a small town, it is not possibly, these fests cannot be organized for just one person, but bigger cities tend to have people from all sorts of places, which kind of become a hub, which kind of become an ideal destination to situate such kind of events. The marketing strategy for such events includes social media posts and images, influencer post and audience participation at huge levels. So there is also a huge marketing that is also going on for such, because how will somebody know that these fests are going on? Because these fests are not for normal people who are unable to relate to any of the characters. Why would somebody who is not interested in comics would spend money and go and visit any kind of comic fest or Comic Con event? So they are hugely popularized, they are hugely marketed, they are hugely advertised on the social media platform through influencers who actually try to send this message to the people interested in in the sequential art, in the sequential narratives, that this is something which is going to happen in your city and you should definitely visit it. The event also draws bug sponsors including Amazon. So this is a very big level event that happens, including sponsors like Amazon, Red Bull, and at the same time generates huge revenue through tickets and high price sale of merchandise projects. So it is not some kind of neighborhood event that happens, but it is kind of an international level platform, and thus it becomes a very great opportunity for the budding illustrators, for the budding designers, for the people who want to be part of sequential art industry in any way, be it comics or graphic novels or pamphlets or posters or any kind of indigenous designs and tribal arts, whatever skill they may be having. But this platform becomes an ideal platform through which they can exhibit their art globally. Comics merchandise. A huge range of merchandise, products, comics, heroes exist in the form of home decor, to accessories, to clothes, to children's stationery. Indian comics have occupied a central role in the life of school-going children who would love to buy certain kind of tiffin boxes, bottles, sharpeners, erasers, name slips, etc. So, I mean, this also shows the way in which this comics culture is seeping in the minds of the very tiny and small children. They don't know anything, but they know their cartoons. They know their cartoon character. This is what they know and this is what they love and this is what they want to buy, want to have it in some part of their life. Adult comics fan can be seen wearing t-shirts or shoes of a particular hero, thus reliving their childhood and proving their fan moment. Moreover, television and film celebrities have taken the love for comics to altogether a different level, which gives the audience feel of watching their favorite cartoon character come alive in front of them. Now we'll look at some examples of how Raj comics or how Diamond comics are, making their presence felt in the contemporary scenario, how they are rebuilding on their narratives, how they are borrowing from the socio-political issues of the present day world, of the present day India, so that they remain relatable. They can be, the storyline can very well be identified by the children. So they are also, the comic book industry is also experimenting itself every day, and trying to bring up with the stories that are situated in the present world scenario. For example, with the aid of the locals, the Indian comic superhero Nagaraj has defeated the miserable evil Corona Man in the made-up city of Mahanagar, which is titled as Nagaraj Strikes the Attack of Corona Man. So during COVID-19, Nagaraj came as a savior against Corona, against COVID-19 in the fictional city of Mahanagar. And this is how Nagaraj was once again launched through the comic book, which is titled as Nagaraj Strikes the Attack of Corona Man. So the Corona Man here becomes the devil. It is the evil that Nagaraj is fighting against, and he has to register his victory for the children against this Corona Man, which has actually launched a very deadly virus and has made everybody shut inside their homes. Raj Comics recently published a 9-page special edition of Nagraj, which contrasts the cult figure with a character known as Corona Man in an attempt to raise awareness about the disease's prevention. The main thought was to reinforce the idea of staying home and following the precautions as notified by the government, different ministries, and the WHO, says Ayush Gupta, who is the founder of Raj Comics. So you see how comics books are being engaged, how comic books are being utilized in order to raise awareness in the children, that what they should do, what should be the preventive measures, what should be the caution they should take, and there should not be rumors, there should not be fear mongering. So all these kinds of efforts are being taken by the comic books themselves in order to raise awareness in the children, so that they can talk about it in their homes and they can understand do and not to do list during the COVID-19 or during any kind of emergencies that may affect society. A nod to the countless more heroes who are fighting valiantly to defeat the virus. So there is a sort of acknowledgement also for the people, the COVID warriors who were said, like doctors, like vegetable sellers, like policemen, who were on duty even during this deadly virus 24/7, and were trying to give their services if for their country, for the prevention of this virus, so that their country would be saved from the deadly attack of this virus. So there is also this, the comic book is also utilized as a kind of appreciation. So a nod to the countless more heroes who are fighting valiantly to defeat the virus, including grocery shop owners, cleaners, researchers, authorities, and medical professionals. Publishing houses Facebook page offers a link to download a PDF of the comic in both Hindi and English, and the special edition of Nagraj may also be viewed on Instagram. So, since this edition was specially launched in order to raise awareness for the social cause, it is not chargeable, it is easily available so that everybody can read, everybody can understand how Nagraj is fighting this corona man, and in writing this narrative, they can also make themselves familiar with what is happening in the society, what is happening in India, what are the precautions being taken by the government, what are the guidelines being issued by them, what are the preventive measures, what should be done and what should not be done. This is all stated out for free in this Nagaraj comics, which is easily available not only in print, because in COVID you cannot go to a shop to buy a comic book, but they are digitally available for free download, which actually makes these comic books all the more accessible among the children of all ages who were restricted to their homes. Now, next is how Diamond Comics is commenting or critiquing on the contemporary scene. Chacha Chaudhary is not alone in Chunavi Dangal. Together, Sabu, Raka, and Dhamaka Singh advocate for voter education and urge people to select the appropriate administration. He is also involved in launching surgical strikes on terrorists to raise caution against terrorism. So, raising awareness in the voters that they should vote, or raising awareness against terrorism, that what are the preventive measures, that if they get any kind of unknown call, or if they are suspecting anything, or if they see any bag or any kind of unknown item which is actually lying in the center of a metro station or in the railway station with no owner around it, so they should immediately be reported to the police. So this is how these comic books make themselves very relevant and make themselves very fit in the contemporary scene, so that children tend to read them. 5-year-old Pinky is 9 years old now, and the blackboard at her school has been replaced with a smartboard. So the comic books are also moving now. She can now do more than merely see her grandmother during her summer vacation. She and her family also have vacations in Goa. So unlike the olden times where Pinky was only restricted to 5-year-old, where it is written that the very fact that she's always 5 years old, and she does not makes it more evident that these stories are fictional. But now, when these stories are now published in the comic book form, Pinky has now grown up in the post millennial era. In the post COVID era, she is now 9 years old, and now she is also like any other kid of 9 years old, who rather than going to her grandmother's house in every, because grandmother's house is also something that will be attached to nostalgia, that appeal children of, or the young people who were children during 90s used to visit their grandmother's house during their summer vacation. But now, rather than summer vacation, or instead of summer vacation at their grandmother's house, children tend to go and visit some new place along with their parents, like Goa, or going to a mountain, going to a beach place. So this is how Pinky is also growing up with time in the post millennial era. English is in trend. New comics are liberally using English words. English words such as arrest, speed, fight, friends, etc. have entered Hindi comics too. Ashul Verma, the proprietor of Diamond Comics, is getting ready to enter the anime and manga market. Diamond Verse will be the new name for the brand's relaunch. So altogether, the Diamond Comics are going to enter and relaunch themselves in the graphic novel form or in the manga comic form, and it will be
completely the Diamond Comics, the name will be changed, and it will be more like the universe of Diamond Comics, where you can find Diamond Comic characters across all media platforms, for example in comic books, for example from the TV, from social media, from the special issues that they have created for raising awareness during a particular time. So all this will come together when new versions of Diamond Comic characters are going to be launched through graphic novel and manga forms, which is going to be titled as Diamond Verse.
Thank you.